Hello and welcome to WeLearn Virtual Learning Network. This is session 20 of Administrative Theory, Hierarchy. Topics to be covered: Introduction, Meaning and Definition, Importance, Basic Feature, Level Jumping, Advantages, Disadvantages. Introduction. Yes, in this session of the business administration theory, we will having an understanding about the hierarchy. That is, what exactly the hierarchy is, how hierarchy performed, what is the major role of hierarchy performed in the organization. If we talk about the hierarchy, integrates the various units of an organization which are divided on the basis of specialization, which are performed according to the particular department or specialized task. Through an interlocking system of the superior and subordinate relationship from top to bottom. It is basically defining that how superior and subordinate related to each other, what kind of relationship they were sharing, and yes, at the same time, hierarchy provides us to flow of a better communication and flow of better authority and responsibility. This is basically a role of hierarchy, and the hierarchy is, we can state that, meaning, definition, basic features, advantages and disadvantages of hierarchy we are going to discuss in this session. Now, what are meaning and definition? What exactly we call the hierarchy? Hierarchy means rule or control of a higher over the lower. If the person wants to control the other person, or we can say that hierarchy represent the superior subordinate relationship. That is what defining that who is on the higher position and who is on the lower, who is controlling the other person. In administration, hierarchy basically means graded organization of a several successive step and level which are interlinked with each other. So in administrative sense, if we talk about, if we discuss regarding keeping in mind about the administration part, so hierarchy is basically considered as a graded organization. That is the organization which have a grade into the respect of their successive step. That means what kind of in a succession, what kind of in a step they were taking. So in that case, this is a method where the efforts of a various individual in the organization are integrated with each other. Yes, these are the method in which they were related to each other, in which they were considered as an important part in each other. It is a method where the efforts of a various individual in an organization leads to create the superior subordinate relationship. At the same time, it's a scalar means to grading of duties according to the degrees of authorities and responding responsibility. It is what defining about the graded part. Yes, in other way, hierarchy means a graded organization of a several successive steps. It also known as the scalar principle. And yes, at the same time, if we talk about the successive step in the organization, it is also considered as a graded organization, or we can say that scalar principle. That means a principle through which the proper flow of communication was there, proper chain of command was there. At the same time, they defined the proper working of the authorities. The principle of hierarchy demands that no immediate level by skipping over the jump will be dealt with the higher level. That means if there was a hierarchy, never be jumped on the another hierarchy. There was always a proper flow in proper stages with the help of this hierarchy. So it is known as functioning through the proper channel. That means perform all the functions which are in a proper way. Hierarchy thus gives a rise to the different level of decision making. Hierarchy basically gives very important and different aspects that how to deal with and how to take decisions. Because hierarchy is stepped by a chief executive can issue the order to any level in the organization and allot the responsibility. That's very obvious. If we talk about the superior or subordinate relationship, or defining that hierarchy provides the flow on the step-wise, how we can deal with the high level and lower level. If we consider the lower level people was considered one thing, that is if they want to discuss something and they want their viewpoints to deal or let us know by the subordinate, in that terms, yes, they always contract the immediate boss of that particular level. Yes, at another case, if the higher authority wants to pass on certain kind of order, in that case, they can straightaway pass the order to all the levels. So this is what exactly the hierarchical formation which is worked in that case. This is exactly what the hierarchy performed in the organization, and that is what the proper channel of the organization. Now, importance. If we talk about the hierarchy, so what are the importance of hierarchy? We already going to discuss it, that the biggest importance is that it gives us the ideas about the organization. It provides the well-defined structure of the organization, well-constructed structure of the organization. So the distribution of function and responsibility is both horizontally and vertically. That is what? That the flow of orders and flow of work to the organization. So it is what? The systematically. So in that case, that's the structure have a vertical and horizontal path. And an organization structure is going vertically and horizontally when more and more level are added in the organization. As a normal organization grow day by day, it leads to have a more activities to be performed, more work to be performed. In that activity, in that work, yes, this will lead to have the proper working in the organization. If we add more work, that is what vertical growth. But if we add more functions, more position, it is what increasing the horizontal growth. So when more and more levels are added in the organization, it is vertical growth. But yes, when more functions or more position are added without increasing the number of levels, so it is the horizontal growth. Horizontal growth, as we can say that it's a straight line. So in that case, horizontal is always adding up of functions, whereas vertical is added on levels. Yes, the difference in the nature of responsibility, the difference in the salary scales, the difference in the qualifications and qualities are very much required. Superior-subordinate relationship does emerge in the organization. The need for the scalar system is basically realized because of the two reasons. First is the division of work into its most economic part with a view to pursue the ideal of the task specialization, so especially to managerial philosophy. Yes, the one of the important thing is what to bringing out the division of work into the most economic part with a view to pursuing the ideal and the task specialization. At the same time, the patterns of integrating the volumism behavior and acting of specializations into one combined effort, that is related to the another part of the specialization, volumization, consider volume, increase volume, or bringing out the specialization concept in the managerial concept. That is what the two things will make our social system or scalar system in a very different scenario. One gives the division of labor, bringing out specialization, another gives the pattern to perform that work. So in that case, yes, two different concept was come, and in that scenario, two different scalar chain is prepared. Now, basic feature. The first feature of a hierarchy is what the entire administrative function is divided into units and subunit. The whole organization is divided because it's a proper structure that defines the units and subunits. These units are organized in the form of pyramid, one below the other. That's very true. If we talk about the hierarchy itself having a structure, that structure having a pyramid style. That means higher level, then it's divided into the further structure, then further divided. So that is always a pyramid structure. Then other is authority is distributed to the various level. Authority is passed on to the different levels. Another basic feature is hierarchical organization observe the principle of through the proper channel. Yes, it provides us the proper channel. It provides us the proper working. So that is why it's a hierarchical organization which observes the and bringing out the proper channel. So now another is all the commands and communication should come through a proper channel. No immediate level can be ignored. That is, whatever the order is passed on, whatever the communications flowed in the organization, it's never be left any level all the levels must be informed about what is exactly going in the organization and what are the major tasks to be performed, what are the major things to be known. So a person receive order only from one superior officer and not from anybody else. This means the principle of a unity of command is observed. In terms of that is always there, that person must receive an order from their immediate boss. It is one of the rule of the hierarchy, that it must be passed on by the two person, that means immediate boss, to their subordinate. Another basic feature is authority and responsibility are adequately combined. Authority without responsibility is dangerous, where responsibility without authority is meaningless. That is the same when we talk about the hierarchy as in a command, as in a flow or a path of a command, path of a communication. So it is also a path of a flow, or it's a path through which the authority and responsibility can work. So that is why it is always related to perform better in the organization. For that, yes, we require the proper hierarchy. These are those basic features through which we can perform betterly in the organization, and hierarchy contain all these factors in it. So in the authority flow, A is at the apex of the organization pyramid. He is the head of the organization. B is subordinate. C is the immediate subordinate of B and also subordinate of A. So we can get the idea of this, that the authority, the biggest one is A. A is the head of B. And yes, at the same time B is subordinate. C is immediate subordinate of B. C B का immediate subordinate है. So automatically A C का भी head हुआ. Thus, if you go down the line, then F is the immediate subordinate of E. Again, next line में the F and E becomes the subordinate and also subordinate to the A. Thus, the order flow from top to the bottom means that जब किसी भी तरीके का order top to bottom flow करेगा, तो वो कैसे flow करेगा? A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, E to F. So this is what the same pattern of the communication. Again, this could be upward also. So that is what basically the hierarchical structure. We can see this in a picture. That is the picture which we actually seeing, that in two level, if there was an A, B, C, D, E, F, there was also another hierarchy, the another department of organization you can consider it. That's G, H, I, J, K. So this is what the triangular diagram of the hierarchy structure. This basically gives this concept basically gives the idea that yes, it is related to bringing out these factors. Now, what is level jumping? In actual practice, shortcuts are found to avoid delay without violating the essential principles of hierarchy. There are two ways of doing it. Henry Ford suggests that a bridge can be thrown across the formal line of the authority of the hierarchy so that subordinate officer in one department contact the opposite members in the other department directly. One at a more immediate level may be jumped to establish direct contact between the officer and quickens the pace of her work. So that is what the level jumping. We can see in the previous picture, F and K, they have that line. This is what basically a level jumping in terms of just to bringing out the proper pace in a work, proper speed in a work. The one person can contact to the other person in the same department, but they must be in the same level. So in that flow, they were bringing out the proper flow in the organization and proper working of the organization. That is why they were stating that hierarchy. Henry Ford was basically state, bring a bridge. एक ब्रिज बना दीजिए, एक लाइन बना दीजिए जो कि एक फॉर्मल लाइन ऑफ अथॉरिटी डिफाइन की जाएगी. उसमें जितने भी सबऑर्डिनेट ऑफिसर्स होते हैं वो ऑपोजिट मेंबर्स के साथ डिस्कस कर सकते हैं, कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं, अप्रोच कर सकते हैं. वन ऑफ द मोर इमीडिएट लेवल में भी टू जस्ट इससे क्या होता है कि वर्क का जो फ्लो होता है, जो जितनी भी हमारी कम्युनिकेशन होती है, pace of work जो होता है, they all are increased very well. So your officer become more quicker, your pace of work become more quicker. So that comes into the level jumping. So hence, with the proper confidence and loyalty between the superior and subordinate at each level, the delay of hierarchical organization can be very much reduced. Yes, if both the superior and subordinate have a trust on each other, have loyalty between each other. If I passed on certain kind of order to my subordinate, I know that that person will definitely perform it on the time. This trust will lead to bring out the more efficiency in the organization and bringing out the low delays in the organization and reduce the delay. Both the shortcut discussed about the play a significant part in the reducing delay. So every organization must have its skeleton, just as every house must have its drain, but it is unnecessary to use this channel frequently as a solo means of communication. Yes, you can't deal this skeleton as in a solo means. You have to consider it as just the house must have its drain. So it is unnecessary to pass one time into a drain. Now what are the advantages? Yes, every large-scale organization should have a unity of purpose, which can be achieved only through hierarchical system. So this is what one of the big example. Hierarchy gives us the idea about the big organizations. How do they perform? What is the original structure of the organization? Who reports who perform according to hierarchical system? Hierarchy integration various units of the organization into a unified whole. That is what bringing out the proper work of your organization, bringing out the proper hierarchy, bringing out the proper units in your organization. It is what instrument of organization integrity and cohesion, that is bringing out the proper integration and cohesion. It is to organization structure which basically building up the structure. ये इस तरीके से हम कह सकते हैं कि hierarchy gives us the main concept is how one person or one department is linked with other, how much it is depend on another. So that is what considered as the integrated various units. In other words, it serves as a channel of communication both upward and downward. They are considered as upward and downward communication and both perform into the similar in a clear way. So that is one another example that we come to know how to give the flow of the communication, how to communicate with the informations both upwards and downwards. It enables us to fix a responsibility at each level and each post in the organization. Again, yes, with the help of this, we go to understand what are the responsibilities at different level. What are the responsibility at different position and post. So every employee know what his position and responsibility are in the organization, what they were actually looking for in the organization. The scale of it through proper channel created by a principle of hierarchy ensures strict adherence to procedure and avoid the short circuiting and ignoring of the intermediate learning. It is always there to have a proper channel of communication, again which we already studied in the basic feature. It's defined that yes, it is related to the shortcut also, so ignoring that and yes, bringing out that considerations. Hierarchy lessons the burden of work at the highest level, decentralized decision making, establish the number of subordinate level below the top executive. In that case, this is what considered the most important part to bring out the decentralization. Perform the decentralized work, perform the decentralized activity. So that's reached to the hierarchy lessons. Then other it simplifies the procedure of the movement of a file because of the strict adherence to the rule or through the proper channel. That is what to bring out the proper movement and proper working of the organization. So make it easy to know where a particular file is. So it is to bringing out the proper decentralization and bringing it. Now what are the disadvantages? Disadvantages, yes, the hierarchical system direction flow from above to down, right? And yes, those development down below are expected to carry out the institutions of their superior without any initiatives and drives. It is what related to bringing out the proper working, bringing out the proper channels. But yes, at the same time, without superior initiative, the hierarchical system cannot be performed. In that terms, it is not related to perform well in the organization if superior not performed. In other disadvantages, it's bring about the rigidity in the administrative organization and is not proper for the development of dynamic human relationship among its member. Yes, the rigidity is always there. Just because of that rigidity, that is always there to bringing out the dynamic nature, that's bring out not properly working of the organization. The success or the failure of the system very much depends on the personal liking of a head of the subordinate. There is always a liking factor in its creation, that whatever the person creates an image about the person, that person starts reacting according to that. That will affect the success and failure of the system also. Another most serious disadvantage is to cause the subordinate delay in the disposal of the work. That subordinate always delay the work just to deciding or concepting in the mind that they are not responsible for the ultimate task. There are few questions which you have to do it yourself. First is, what is the meaning of hierarchy? Explain the importance of hierarchy as a principle of organization. Second is, what is level jumping? Another is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of hierarchy? So yes, this is all about for the today's session. We are winding up here. Thank you so much. Happy learning. We learn.